Hey guys, we're Lloyd and Mandy. We're digital nomads currently traveling the world in search of the perfect place to call home. We've just spent the past month traveling across Vietnam, and today we're going to share with you our top 5 places we think are worth visiting.
One of our favourite parts about Saigon is the nightlife, and mainly Hoi An walking street. This city really comes alive at night, but especially the walking street. Get a lot of crowds there, and there's plenty of places to go and sit and eat and actually watch people walking by. It can get pretty crowded at night, so make sure you get there early and get a good spot. We stayed in District 1, which has its own walking street called Nguyen Hue Walking Street, and they seem to put on a concert there every night of the week. It can get loud, but the hotel usually is pretty quiet at night, so we didn't have any problems sleeping there. It's the easiest city to fly into. It will give you the cheapest prices. If you're flying from any other city in the world, you're probably going to want to fly into Ho Chi Minh City. One thing that really took us by surprise when we got here was the massive European or French influence that we noticed in not only the buildings, but just the cafe and bakery and food culture. There's tons of shopping to be done here with a lot of shopping malls. There's plenty of different districts to check out, including Chinatown and Koreatown. But as we mentioned, if you're going to stay in Saigon, we suggest staying in District 1. It's the easiest, most central place to get around. There's plenty of restaurants. We actually did a food tour by scooter, which we think is a must. If we hadn't have done this food tour, we probably wouldn't have seen the rest of Saigon that there was to see. We'll put the link in the description below, but definitely recommend doing the food tour and starting your trip in Saigon.
This was a really highly recommended place for us to visit, and I totally understood why. When we first pulled up, I sort of got a bit of a Bali feel from the place. There was really nice rice terraces at the hotel that we were staying at. The weather, it was very hot during the day there, but it was a little bit quiet, so there wasn't a whole lot to do during the day, but there was plenty of restaurants and cafes and things around to keep us entertained while it was hot and keep us out of the sun. There also is a really nice beach there, so if you're a beach person, there's also that to do during the day. This place really, like everywhere else in Vietnam, comes alive at night. We had such a good time. We paid to get on a boat. I believe we paid about 50,000 dong each to ride the boat, but worth getting on the boat at sunset. All the lanterns make this place look absolutely stunning. There's so many boats. I believe the ride was about 20 minutes, and it was really dreamy, and we just had a really good time and really enjoyed just looking at the lights and the bridge itself there. It got really busy and was just a really good vibe.
Halong Bay is located in the northeast of Vietnam. It's actually only about a 3-hour drive from Hanoi. We would recommend spending at least 2 nights in Halong Bay and taking one of the junk boat tours. I was a bit skeptical about going to Halong Bay at first because it is such a big tourist destination. When you get to Hanoi or even Saigon, you'll see signs everywhere for Halong Bay tours, and there are hundreds of boats that run tours around the area, but it's well worth it. There is a massive bay with thousands of islands with rainforests coming out the top of them and tiny little beaches. We couldn't believe actually how beautiful the scenery was there. All of the islands have huge green cliffs, and it's really a one-of-a-kind experience. We took a specific cruise called the Paradise Elegance, which we would recommend. It was a 5-star boat, and the service was second to none. We'll put the link in the description below. But if you're going to do any kind of tourist tour in Vietnam, definitely recommend Halong Bay, and definitely recommend doing a boat tour. There's also plenty of kayaking you can do and squid fishing at night if that's your kind of thing, or if you prefer to just stay on the boat and soak in the scenery, we recommend doing that too.
Sapa was such a beautiful experience. I was very happy that we did this. It took about 6 hours on a sleeper bus for us to arrive from Hanoi to Sapa, but it was absolutely worth it. Even the drive there was really dreamy. You drive up through the mountains and it's very green and lush and misty, and the change in temperature was absolutely beautiful. It was the perfect temperature when we arrived. A little bit cooler, I'd say maybe closer to around like 20 degrees Celsius, maybe a little bit more than that, but it was really, really nice and just nice change from the rest of Vietnam. The town itself was really dreamy, and how everyone was dressed was so beautiful, and you have to see the outfit and they're very beautiful. So one of the main ethnic groups that reside in Sapa are the Hmong, and the traditional outfits that you see there are influenced by that. There were so many different shops that had these outfits for sale. Personally, I wanted to buy one. If I had the space in my suitcase, I totally would. Sapa can be a little bit touristy, so it's kind of important to go off the beaten path a little bit and find the restaurants that aren't too expensive. That being said, we did do one of the famous hot pots there, which seemed to be the thing to do, and it was awesome. We really enjoyed it, even though we had no idea what we were doing. It was very delicious and a beautiful view from the restaurant. A lot of the restaurants have multiple levels. We sat up on the 4th floor overlooking the city center, and it was really nice. Can be a bit expensive there, but I think it's worth it for the scenery. We stayed at Hotel de la Coupole, and it was a dream. That hotel should be much more expensive than it is. It's higher end for Vietnam, but the value that you get out of it, we've actually done a full tour on that hotel. If you'd like to see it, we will link it above. But there's also plenty that you can do in and around the city. There's the train that actually leaves from the hotel that we stayed at that takes you to the famous cable car, as well as the gardens that are up in the mountains. Worth doing that during the day. We didn't do the cable car because it was a bit expensive, but even the train up there was stunning. The views were beautiful. But we also recommend taking the time to go to Cat Village, which is like something out of a fairy tale. It's a slight hike down to Cat Village itself, and I believe it was 90 dong per person for a ticket to get in, but it was absolutely worth it. It was so beautiful, really, really cool. It was the highlight of our trip, heading down there and seeing this fairy tale like village. We did visit during summer, but it actually does snow there during winter, which is kind of surprising. It didn't feel like the buildings were insulated or built for snow, but I feel like that would be a really cool experience to visit during winter.
This city is a must-visit destination. It's the capital city of Vietnam, and it's Hanoi. This is probably where you'll find most expats. It has a much more traditional Vietnamese feel than Saigon. The main attraction you want to visit while you're in Hanoi is Train Street. There's a street that is literally on the train tracks, and there's cafes and bars and restaurants lined up alongside the train tracks. And about every 2 hours, a train will run straight through this street, and everyone will pack up their chairs and move off the tracks, and you literally just be sitting there watching this passenger train go by, and it's really a one-of-a-kind experience. We loved it. It is a little bit of a touristy thing to do, but definitely go and check it out. If you're going to be visiting Hanoi, we definitely recommend staying in the Old Quarter. We found that Hanoi was probably the easiest place to meet other people. In fact, every time we went out, we managed to run into other expats and sat down and had a beer with them and had a chat. Best place to do that was a place, it's actually called Beer Corner, believe it or not, and it's an intersection in the middle of the Old Quarter that gets shut down after 10 p.m. There's no cars or bikes allowed, and they just put chairs out on the street and everyone sits around drinking beers, having fun. You do have to cheers in Vietnam before drinking a beer, and some really unique food in Hanoi. This is actually the place where it's very well known to eat a live beating snake heart, which we didn't end up doing, was just a little bit too much for us. But there is a lot of unique food in Hanoi, and we found it was probably the #1 place to visit in Vietnam. It's also a good mix of traditional Vietnamese bars and restaurants and a lot of modern bars as well. There's plenty of rooftop bars in the Old Quarter. We visited a local jazz Casbah, and we also found ourselves in an underground secret bar, which we needed a password to get into, which was pretty cool. The best thing about Hanoi for us was the street food scene. As soon as we walked out of our hotel, we could walk in any direction and we knew we were going to get some great food. So that was probably the number one thing for us there.
There were a few places that we didn't have the time to visit because we only had a 30-day visa. So there were a few that were recommended to us. One being Hoi was very high on the list that we didn't have time to get to, and Nimbin was the other one we would have loved to visit. Let us know down in the comments if you feel like we forgot any places. Let us know what city is your favorite in Vietnam and where you would like to visit. We'd love to know. If you enjoyed this video and it was helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We upload every other day helpful and entertaining travel content. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye!